welcome along to the Onroad podcast. Folks, we are back with episode 5. Ant Lockyer has taken a little sidestep, and joining me in the show is Mark Stiles and Mark Payne. Welcome along, chaps.
Hello. Good to see you. It's the story of the two Marks.
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong here? Both of us with the same name.
Now, what I know is which of us is the thin one and which of us is the fat one.
Well, we'll let everyone be the decider of that.
Not so much little and large as large and large, I would say.
Large and larger.
Well,
yeah.
Lockdown's been treating you, but listen, chaps, what have you been up to? You've been keeping well?
Well, I've got really serious with my YouTube channel. I've been working in audio production for a good number of years, and seeing I did a bit of a semi-retirement thing, I thought I'd put some effort into sharing stories from that world on YouTube. But I started with a bunch of Apple MacBook stuff, and that's taken off. So I just feel like I'm talking about Apple products all the time, but I'm hoping to get off that and talk about some more audio. That'll be good to do. I'm up to 5,000 subscribers. If you're into computers and production technology, then it's Mark Payne Audio. Have a look at that and you'll find me.
Does that mean that you're are you an audio influencer yet, Mark?
Well,
beyond that.
Listen, I've actually had somebody approach me to do a sponsored video, and guess what exciting thing they asked me to do a thing on?
Go on.
A freaking backpack.
Rock and roll, baby.
Rock and roll, baby. I just don't think I'm making a lot of money out of that.
And what about you, Mark, Mr. Stiles? You've been making babies, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I became a daddy on New Year's Eve 2020. So the last 3 months of my life have been quite busy with a new baby girl, little Sophie. But yeah, she's doing well, keeping me on my toes and taking up lots of my time. But yeah, everything's great with that. Trying to find time to go to work and earn a living, and partake in some other hobbies and interests along the way. But yeah, it's all good. It's all good in my world.
Well, for those of the listeners that don't know you, I mean, a few people maybe know a little bit about me. They're probably bored of hearing about me, but let's fill them in with your background in RC. We'll come to you, Mark Payne. We're gonna have to find some nicknames here, Payne and Stiles. I don't know how that's going to work, but Payne, you kick us off with your sort of history in RC and how far it dates back to.
Well, that goes back quite a long way, because I'm 57 now, and maybe when I was 14, 15, I got into a bit of modelling, doing model boats to begin with. But I ended up working for a model shop in Blaby in Leicestershire called Modelcraft, and that was owned by a wonderful guy called Roger Wilding, who taught me a lot of things. But in the shop was managed by a guy called Tony Whitehorn, who was he is the first BRCA national champion recorded in 1978. And I joined just around that time, and the electric 12 scale was just starting. So my first car was a Mardave, and then it quickly became electric car. And in those days, we had the likes of people like Neil Francis and Bill Maisy were ruling the roost. And I used to race at Barwell when I was about 16, 17. I used to True Tires on a Wednesday, listening to the Annie Lennox rock show, and then go racing in Barwell on Thursday. Used to have to put my gear in the back of my car. No, I didn't put it in the back of the car. I didn't have a car. I used to put it on the back of my push bike. Actually, my lovely wife Audrey, one of the things that attracted me to Audrey was she was the first person in the school to end up with a car. And some, the joke here is I only went out with her so that she could take me to race meetings. And there is actually no truth in that whatsoever. But I was really lucky to be, because I worked in the shop, I ended up getting to know Seth Schumacher really well, because he was really, it was at the beginning when he invented the Schumacher diff, the ball diff that we're all used to seeing in touring. Well, in everything, it's in everything, isn't it? The ball diff.
It's disappearing now, isn't it?
Well, I know. Yeah, we're all deciding to run solid axles for. We should talk about that later. And Seth took me under his wing. He was ex-Cosworth engineer working on gearboxes, and he was a genius. And he taught me a lot about engineering. And I was a bit of a pain in the arse at that age. I was a bit socially awkward. Well, actually, I still am socially awkward.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, isn't that the stereotypical RC car racer?
Yeah. If you're socially awkward, come and join us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
talk to anyone.
But he really inspired me. And I used to meet him for a drink in the pub, and I got to know Robin, his lad, really well. We used to race together. So in those days, one of the main differences, we didn't race on carpets. We ran on unprepared floors, and the tyres we used were Armorflex, which is a pipe insulation. We used to go to the DIY shop, buy the Armorflex, chop off chunks of it, glue it onto the rims, take a carving knife down the left and the right side to true the outer walls, and then I used to have my dad's drill bolted to a bench in the garage, and I would offer up to it a board which had got glass paper glued to it, and then I would use that to true the Armorflex to diameter, and then that would then get covered with silicone, which you'd then roll the two tyres against each other to stipple the silicone up into little peaks, and that would give you extra grip. You could run that for a few meetings, it would wear the grip off, and then you would re-silicone to return the stipple. And that was our tyre technology of the day.
Well, so if anyone complains about truing tyres, sort your life out, because it's only a little bit of truing.
I mean, when I started in this hobby, you had to glue tyres to rims, but so I think but having to actually make the tyres before you can even attach them to a wheel is next level, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, it really is.
It takes preparation to a whole new level. That does.
So it'd be safe to say then it's been man and boy, and I think it's those experiences that are etched on the memories of us as kids experiencing RC in its most primitive of form, isn't it? It's very different now, and I think it's guys like us that have experienced that when we were much younger that has either touched you or not touched you, but invariably it's touched you to want to be back involved in RC or still have or never left it. I left it for a good number of years, but come back to it. But it was always sort of in my DNA as a kid.
Yeah, I mean,
Mark, have you ever had a break from it, or have you done it continually since the late 70s up to now?
No, I had a massive break because when I got to university, so I'm talking about by about 84, I mean, 12 scale was massive. You had to, I don't know, you had to give a limb to get into a national at that time. It was absolutely huge. And
but then, of course, back then there was only really two classes, wasn't there? You had 8 scale nitro outdoors or 12 scale electric indoors, and that was it, wasn't it? So
you had. And but when I went to university in Birmingham, so this is early 80s, I just didn't have the time, and I certainly didn't have the money. I'm not saying that RC racing was expensive then, because I'm not wholly sure that it was, but you needed the time, and I didn't have the time because I was doing electronics. It was a head screw, and I needed to keep my head in that game. And then I got married, and then I was working for Hewlett Packard, and I got busy, and so it was roll on to about 1998. I'm sitting in some friend's house, and I could hear this ying ying going on outside of a pinion on a spur gear. I thought, what is that? And it was a Schumacher 10th scale touring car, which I'd never seen one. And first of all, I thought, oh my gosh, this is huge. Because, if your life has been based around looking at a 12 scale car, a 10 scale car looks big. And I thought, it's all carbon fiber and it's 4-wheel drive and it's got a dip. How have how had they done all of this? You know, where have I been all of my life? And then I went out and bought myself an associated TC3 with the shaft drive down the middle. And that got me back into touring cars.
Fantastic. And so Stiles, you're obviously not back into the 70s quite as much, maybe the 80s, I'm guessing.
No, well, I've recently turned 34, so I look a lot older than I am. the getting married and having a baby girl has put some grey hairs on my head, that's for sure. But no, I first discovered RC car racing probably 1999, I think it was, and it was actually whilst I was at school. I was in year 7, year 8 at school, and my design and technology teacher at the time used to run a lunchtime and after school club, which was all geared around building, preparing, and then ultimately racing Mardev V12 RC cars. So they used to run the after school club on a Wednesday, which was for kind of building and prepping your car, and then the teacher used to organise a race meeting on a Friday lunchtime around the technology block, like a open carpeted area, and they used to let people in off of the playground to come and watch the racing. So I remember, I was year 7, year 8. I wandered in off the playground and saw these cars whizzing around, and I had a pre-existing interest in cars and motorsport. That's kind of what I've grown up around and was born into. But I saw these RC cars buzzing around the track, and I thought I need to get involved with this and have a go. So that's where it all started for me, really. An after-school club.
Yeah, and of course you've both been successful in different levels, and I think that's certainly something that would be nice to cover with both of you. And just briefly, Mark, because we've got our special guest coming on the show just in a second. Give us a quick overview of. Don't want to be dismissive, that's for sure. I want to give it the respect, and I think it'd be nice to have a further conversation on both of your accomplishments in RC. What a quick overview of your accomplishments, Mark, Stiles, in recent times.
Yeah, so I think it's like any interest, really. It started off at that early stage, and it really just snowballed from there. And as I ended up finding my local club that happened to race the Mardev cars that I was using at the after school club, so I raced there for a number of years, and then I kind of networked with people that raced at other clubs in other classes, and got chatting to people that raced at more regional, national level. So I kind of just almost made friends and tagged along with those people, and that's how really I climbed the ranks, I suppose you could say. And yeah, once I got into national level competition at 112 scale, I remember, racing around in B and C finals and wondering whether I'd ever make a national A final. I used to watch these guys racing the A finals at nationals and think they were like gods. It was like, how can anyone be that fast and that good at this? And yeah, I guess I kept plugging away, and eventually I scraped myself into an A final, and it went from there, really. I think I've won a few national A finals in my time. I've never been national champion. That's one feather that I've not managed to put in my cap. But I've come close. I finished second and third mostly. had a lot of third places in races and championships over the years. And I've had a couple of Euros podiums and Euros A finals and things like that. So. I feel as though now I'm kind of at the age and at the point in my life where I've kind of been over the crest. So it feels like I'm starting to come down a little bit now, and I'm beginning to struggle to keep up with the young hot shots of the day.
Let me tell you what that.
Once upon a time, I was.
I adamantly disagree with that view and opinion, by the way. But anyway, that's a whole new conversation. Very quickly, because we've got a super guest on the show, Mark Payne. In 30 seconds, give us your highlights in performance-wise in RC.
Yeah, I think the best I got in 10th scale, I think I finished 11th overall in the national championships. I mean, that was back in
That's good.
Yeah, that was good, and I've made a few A finals not in touring car in 12th, which is great. I'm even further back down, coming down the mountain now. This stuff doesn't get any easier as you get older, and but I'm still every day racing myself. So one of the things I love about 12th is that you can always pitch yourself against people that are on a similar level to you. And I just enjoy the racing. I like the way the car moves on the carpet, and I like the competitiveness, and I'm happy to be competitive at whatever position I find myself in.
I think that's an interesting point, Mark. You say about pitching yourself against someone else who's at your level, and I think that applies whether you're on the way up or on the way back down. As I was working my way up through the ranks, there was always someone that I'd identify at a race meeting where I thought, okay, if I can beat that guy, I've had a good day. And the same goes for, when you're later in your RC career, if you're perhaps not right at the sharp end like you once were, you kind of looking down the qualifying list thinking, okay, who am I racing against today? And that's the motivator, really, isn't it? It's the competition against people of a similar level.
It's a very addictive hobby, and if you've got that competitive streak in you, it certainly draws it out of you. Now we've got a very special guest with us this evening. There's been a lot of really keen interest with EFRA and their desire to really push our hobby, a fantastic hobby, in a really sort of not a new direction, but in a direction that really gives it the credence that it deserves, and trying to generate some more interest from a variety of different audiences around Europe and hopefully across the globe. So this evening we're very lucky to have the EFRA Chairman Javier Garcia with us. Welcome along, Javier.
Hello everybody. Hello guys.
Hi Javier.
So glad to be here and to share a few minutes and feel the EFRA spirit and all the EFRA is doing right now. I'm very glad to be here.
Fantastic. Javier, obviously you've had a couple of videos go out over the last few days. The sort of the 2.5 minute one is a fantastic watch. It gives me goosebumps just sort of looking back to the early days and the smiles on people's faces and the crowning of champions and the variety of people that it touches, young and old. What's been the reception since putting out your new stance as EFRA?
Well, the answer about the last 3-4 days was amazing. Really, when I was the first time that I watched the video, it was amazing for me, because this is a kind of heritage. I was involved in the RC since I was a kid with my father in my home club, and when I saw that video and I could see all heritage or people, World Championship, European Championship, it was amazing for me. And the answer from a lot of people who contact us and to tell, hey, this is so amazing and really, 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 really nice, all the feedback I got in the last 3-4 days.
That's great. And in terms of the reach you feel it's had, have you able to get any feedback of where it's gone to, let's say?
You mean about the feedback got from people outside of EFRA or for the drivers, you mean?
Yeah, just for the drivers mainly.
Yeah, I got a great feedback. Even the good thing for us is I could get a lot of feedback by Facebook, also with my personal mail address, the president mail address, that they want to cooperate, that they want to move forward in that plan, because I think it's the most important thing in my opinion is to engage people to move forward, because in my opinion this is a big ship and we have to move all together at the same time, and I think it's important in that moment to engage people to work in that project.
Yeah, and I think it is a huge undertaking, really, and really, you know, I've done a little bit of research on the EFRA website, the BRCA website, because I think you're our representatives, as it were, governing bodies, and so I'm really trying to understand why we haven't got the reach and the engagement that I feel the hobby should have. So what I did, and you know, I think I certainly don't want to be outspoken, and I certainly don't want to poo-poo any of the ideas that you're putting forwards. But EFRA and the BRCA, using the free mediums that they've got to themselves at the moment, like Facebook, like YouTube, like Instagram, let's say, in 2021, in this downtime that we've all had, to me, it's been a real opportunity to have that target of no one's racing, everyone's at home, or a lot of people are at home more in their leisure time than they've ever been. And it's been a real opportunity for us to capture those individuals and maybe engage them a bit more than they ordinarily might be, because they're out doing their hobbies, etc. And I was just looking at the interaction that we've had, the BRCA in 2021, from January to now. There's only been 10 posts on the BRCA Facebook page. In 2021, on EFRA's Facebook page, there's only been 19 posts, a darn sight more, or double of the BRCA. You've collectively, EFRA and BRCA has 13,000 followers, subscribers, likers to those two pages. I then stepped sideways and looked at my own professional governing body. I'm a professional golfer, and I looked at what they're doing. And of course, they're a professional body, and they might have people employed to do this sort of thing. In March alone, they did 21 posts of interaction. Now, golf in the UK is closed, as you would obviously understand. I then looked laterally, and I thought, well, do you know what? I'm going to take an amateur body, Surrey Tennis. It's a county that I live in. We only have 694 followers on their Facebook page, but in March alone, they put 20 posts out with the people that are following them. My big issue with hobby shops, with clubs, if nothing's going on, the light switch goes out. And I think, for me, we owe it to ourselves to do the simple things really, really well, and that's connect with our audience and engage with our audience. And it feels like that we don't do that anywhere near enough, and we feel like they should come to us and we shouldn't go to them. And I think that's my biggest gripe about all of it, really, all of racing in general. And I've got a few other ideas, but where do you stand on that, Javier?
Well, we have an ambition program, as you say. You talk on different areas, and I would like to point out some good points regarding media. We have in our program, we have 5 different projects, and I think it's so important to take care. One of them is how to engage people around the social media and to get better communication between drivers, federations, and also in general in different social media areas. Even during the last few days, last week, I think we are considering to be on Twitch also, because it's a new social media that are creating a lot of expectations. And of course, we need to improve in every single area, because don't forget that one of the reasons for that development plan in EFRA is to move forward and to get to engage the new generation of kids, the new generation that the future drivers will be on board. But I think it's very important to be where the kids are, and I think is everybody could be agree that the kids are online, if you want to say. And I think that's a very good year to move forward in that area. Of course, we have to do a lot of things, and not just media. because we need the federation. You talk about federation, BRCA, that we need in that ambitious program, the federation move forward in the same way, because we can create guidelines about what, in our opinion, should be the RC in the next future. I think we have to move outside of RC. I think the word RC Motorsport Europe means, that's a hashtag, that's a sentence, but we want to go in that way. We have to move in the same way like motorsport. I think in the short term, in the medium term, in the next 3 years, that the development plan will be for the next 3 years, we have to move forward, and that's a big goal for us, because if we move in the way that motorsport and to create expectation and to create noise, if we want to say, in the outside of RC, I think that we can engage more people. As you say, golf is so popular in some areas, even here in Spain. And also we have to move in that way, but because if you talk about the RC, everybody knows what the RC are with the cars, boats, planes. And I think that's a good opportunity for us. And really, we are very, very motivated to go and to start to work in the KIT program. This is also another ambition program that we have in EFRA.
Yeah. So, Javier, what do you think the kind of the main responsibility of EFRA is in all of this? So obviously the end goal is to try and grow the hobby and kind of put it out there, have a wider reach. But do you think the focus should be more on really showcasing the elite levels of the hobby? That is really what EFRA is most closely associated with. So do you think we should be trying to promote that and engage people with high level racing and the kind of celebrities, so to speak, of the hobby, or do you think that EFRA's role should be geared more towards creating entry level classes and giving new people and new blood a way into the hobby? Or do you think that's more something that should be dealt with by national federations and clubs? You know, what do you think the scope is for EFRA in all of this?
I think one of the main tasks of EFRA is to try to put all the main person or actors in the industry together. So we have the opportunity. EFRA, one of the main tasks is to put together the RC industry, the federation, because the federation can engage the intro level, the entry classes, and I think the one of the main tasks of EFRA is to put everything together. So, and with that plan, we want to put everything together, and then we can move in different areas. We can create the guidelines to the entry classes. So to work with the federation, we have to move with them for the entry classes, the level, the starting levels, and also we have to put the focus in the pro drivers on the pro races, because the pro races could be the pinnacle of the RC, and this is something good for media. This is something to move outside of RC. Don't forget that in the real motorsport, you have a great class, a top level class where people fight at the maximum technical cars, the maximum technical rules, the technology, everything put in together. But at the same time, the government bodies have to help the national federation with the starting classes. And I think that we don't have to put the focus in a concrete area. We have to move around, and we have to take care of that. That's the reason that they put the focus in media, to create a very good European championship, and put the focus in the media, create a good packet to move forward outside RC and to engage new fans and new people. And also at the same time, KIT programs work with the federation to help to create the starting classes, like in the same way like MotoGP, for example, Moto3, Moto2, and MotoGP. Still, all of three are world championship, but at the same time, we have a direction about the starting classes and move forward through the top level drivers.
Fantastic. Javier, it's Mark Payne here. I just wanted to ask you how you feel about what's going to be going on with EFRA in terms of its encouraging youth and students and children getting into RC? Do you feel that there are any initiatives that can be made at the EFRA level to really set an example and encourage more involvement from teenagers and children?
Yeah, of course. We have we are working in the project number 5, that is a KID program. We have a different sub-project that from EFRA we can start to engage the youth people. For example, one of them is to create a special content for kids. So to create a special channel in our EFRA YouTube channel for them. So try to get funny videos to engage the youth people. Another way is to go in our event. So we have the control of the European Championship, and one of the projects that we have in mind is to go and to create a special, let's say, moment, let's say afternoon, let's say special day into our EFRA event at the European Championship, special for kids. Imagine for a moment that you are in the European Championship, and for example, on Thursday, Friday morning, we close the track and we can make an agreement with the federation, and the federation put on the track 2 buses of kids from different schools, and we can show what we are doing. We can, with the top driver, we can make some kind of clinics. We can get some answers, some games, something like that. And we are in the European Championship, so we can get repercussion in the local level, in the media, in the local news, and all those things can be engaged directly from EFRA. Also, of course, to go to the schools, because we have a national rule, we need the help of the federation. But directly from EFRA, we can work in our events with kids, taking care of the kids, and also go in that area of video. That's a good, clear example that what we can do from EFRA side. But of course, more things. We have more things in mind, like for example, regarding talking with kids, we can create a special program. I'm talking about competition. So when we can help kids to move around the level of RC. I mean, starting with the national level, so they can go to the European level. If the kids have the skills, we can promote him to go to the World Championship. I think it could be a support the kids when he start, let's say, professionally in the RC.
Yeah, I think with regard to kind of this new development and this new path that you're trying to take with EFRA, it's probably important to distinguish between what EFRA has traditionally been, and if I use Formula One as a full-size Formula One as an example of this, because most people are familiar with roughly how that works. EFRA has traditionally been the equivalent of the FIA in that they've formulated and maintained the rules and have essentially been the governing body of Formula One. And EFRA has traditionally been that for RC in Europe. But what F1 also has is the commercial rights holder, so Liberty Media as it is now, and they're the ones that actually promote the sport and take it to the people, so to speak. So I think this, would you agree, Javier, this new initiative that EFRA are embarking upon is more geared towards that kind of public relations side of everything that previously EFRA hasn't really been very involved with, and I think that's possibly what's been lacking in the past at EFRA level. Is that how you kind of read the situation?
Yeah. I think you talk about the rights and all those stuff, but yes, we, as I said in the live in the Facebook Live last week, I think we're here to try to move forward the complete cake, and which means that to be more visible, because we need that RC in Europe and also in the world, but mainly in Europe, more visible to the outsiders. So when this kind of project, when we can get this kind of let's say let's say, when we can move forward in that area, of course, more projects can go ahead, because if we go outside and we can get partners outside of RC, for sure we can link the ideas that these partners can get with the kids with the RC. So I think it's finally we have to move everything around RC, because if we can do that, automatically more ideas, more brainstorming can get for us, and I think it's positive.
Yeah, so, I think something that I know we've spoken about quite recently, Javier, in a separate meeting that I was involved with, is I think what we need to try and do, if we can, is use the kind of the elite drivers and manufacturers in RC and almost turn them into idols, I think was the word that was used by someone. So, you know, most professional sports and activities have their famous players. So if you take golf, for example, as Stu used that example earlier, you've got your Tiger Woodses and your Rory McIlroys and everyone else. Whereas nobody outside of RC knows who any of the top drivers are in RC motorsport. So if we can kind of change that in some way through social media and promotion to say, look, this is what these people do as a job, and these are the people that youngsters and new people should aspire to, then I think that's possibly something that we can kind of make the most of in that regard.
Talking about top drivers and the value of the top drivers that can provide for the outside RC and to attract young kids. One of the projects that we have is the EFRA Ambassadors. That could be the next visible step that we can get. So we are trying inside of RC, but we are going to try to go outside of RC to create the name of EFRA Ambassador, which means that drivers who started inside of RC and then become top levels or pro drivers can share the experience with the kids. So we can take some interviews, some takes, so we can promote, or they can be EFRA ambassadors to promote inside the community. But we are looking for people from outside of RC with a very good relation with RC in the past, and some of the Formula One's drivers in the past can get relation. Could be amazing for us to get this kind of links, because a lot of drivers in the past, even in the Formula One drivers, all the drivers can get relation with RC, and it could be amazing. This kind of ambassadors for RC could be we can engage more people and show the world what we are doing.
No, that's super. Javier, I was going to say that, you know, I'm not one of the top racers. You know, I attend a lot of international meetings, but, you know, I very much make up the fodder of that. You know, if I'm in a D final, I've had a good day. And,
you are lucky compared with my skills in RC. So I think you are a top driver for me.
You know, and of course, you know, if there's 100 people at an international meeting, most of those guys are like me. You know, sometimes I have felt really that it does almost feel like it can sometimes feel like we're just there to make up the numbers, and therefore, Mark Stiles, I would say that I sometimes have an uncomfortable feeling about that. Let's talk about the superstars.
Yep.
But I do agree with that we do need to make those personalities. I mean, if you talk to the likes of Alex Hagberg and maybe Ollie Payne, these are quality individuals. I mean, these guys have got heart and soul and a care about them, and I agree that we should make a lot of that as much as we can. Javier, I just want to encourage you that. I mean, I only ever really engage with EFRA when I need my EFRA license so I can go abroad and race. I mean, that's really my only touch point with EFRA and organisation. And I remember maybe even a couple of years ago looking at the EFRA website and thinking, I don't even understand what this is showing me. It doesn't look like anything I do. And I do a lot of RC. But I must admit, recently I was looking at the website and it looks much like what I do. And so I don't know. I wanted to ask you, when did that get changed? Because it does look to me a lot more representative of your general RC racer now.
Yeah, of course. I'm agree with your point about the average driver when you go to the European Championship, talking about more or less 80% of the drivers on the European Championship are amateurs. They spend time with family, pay by themselves, all the stuff and all the travels and everything. And then more or less 20% could be top drivers. And I think is now in that point, I think it could be good to talk about the racing experience. And I think this is a discussion inside the EFRA when we create the development plan, talking about how to improve the racing experience for the amateurs. And I think it's so important to take care of that. I think it's the high competition, the A main, I think it's important for the media to create a good package to go outside because it's just spectacular. But we cannot forget that the 80% of the field are amateurs. So this is something that with the media partner, with Control, that I think, in my opinion, they are doing a very good job in the last 2-3 years, or even more, even 10 years when I started our relation. But since Control, with Matt were on board, and I think we created more videos and with more pictures to reflect all the amateurs are doing, and I think is that the heroes for at least one day. I think is something that in the last 2-3 years we take care, and we have to get more. We want to take care in the future and to improve the racing experience, that I think is very important. Since that you register in the race with your national federation, all the videos to create as most easy as possible to enter on the race. Also with the video, how to do that, how to do the other things, stuff or whatever you want. But even when you are in the race, try to get the best atmosphere possible with the facilities on the track. And then after, when you come back to the race, you can click in your in our website, you can see a video, at least the D final where you race, or some picture with you with your family. And I think this is the racing experience that people want, especially the amateurs.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, sometimes a divide can be made. I mean, I've been at a couple of meetings where, you know, we've all qualified and we're ready to start the finals, and we do a practice final, as you know, and the A finals will do a full length practice final, but the rest of us get to go for 60 seconds. You know the sort of thing I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know.
That really sits badly with a room of international travellers where everybody is committed the same effort to be at a meeting, and I think we really need to be careful with the elite approach, that we don't create or we don't support a them and us kind of situation. Would you agree?
Yeah, this is a challenging task. So keep the balance between how to get the best race experience for amateurs and how to create the best product in terms of high-level competition. I think it's a challenging task. As I said before, we have to take care of amateurs, but I think it's important, and also we have to create a good packet of content with the top-level drivers. But I'm agree that now we're taking care of that, but in the future we have to keep the same opportunity, the same track time. When you know that I'm section chairman in 1/8 Onroad, and this is one of my concerns when I come to the track, and try to see the same opportunities for everybody about track time. Sometimes the top driver complains with me about that they don't have much more time to practice, but my main goal is to try to get the same opportunity for everybody. The last driver on the field have to get the same opportunity to win the European Championship as the top drivers.
Excellent.
And I think that's a really good point that we make, and I'm very conscious of your time, Javier, so we won't keep you for very much longer. We'll make this the last question, but I just wanted to sort of draw on the fact that we are in the entertainment and experience business. We are trying to create memories for people to go home and tell their friends and family, and that fleeting 2-second walk past the camera for a few, that they suddenly see themselves, you know, on RC Racing TV. They suddenly see a picture on the EFRA website. I was diligently looking through the EFRA website yesterday and came across some photographs of a very good friend of mine that didn't know was there. I sent them to him. It absolutely made his day. And yeah, when you're spending money, you're getting on a plane, you're going across the other side of the world in some cases. Alex Hagbergs and the Ollie Paynes and the Mark Reinards, they're doing that day in, day out. They are not after the same experience as you or I and Mark and whoever else. We are in the entertainment industry, and I think that is really what this is all about. And I think once you start to get that entertainment factor into it and the experience factor in it, I think you then start to change the demographic of the RC public. You move it from an average age of 35 to 44 down to an average age of 15 to 25, because when you're young and you love a bit of an adrenaline rush, and let's all face it, we've all shaken ourselves to death up on that rostrum at some point in our RC lives. There is no finer feeling, strangely, and that is the entertainment and the experience. And I think that needs to be at the forefront of what we're trying to deliver to new people coming in.
Yeah, of course. I think I completely agree with your point, and I think it's a very good point. Even though we cannot forget drivers, of course, but like crossing around Europe to get the experience of or to race a European championship. But we cannot forget also the volunteers who work on the tracks to try to get the time of glory. You mean I remember in 2019 in the European Championship in France. In the beginning of the day with Matt, with Control, we get a small meeting to see, hey, what could be the point to catch of the day, so to catch the atmosphere. And we had the idea, Matt had the idea to make a short video about the team managers. That in European Championship we need team manager that is collect the information from the meetings and goes with the drivers. So it was a video, and I think it's in the EFRA and YouTube channel, about what's the reason to be for the team managers, and also what is the normal work that the team manager have to do. Team manager is a volunteer work, and it's amazing to get this kind of 5 minutes of glory to see, hey, these guys are working for you. So the work of the volunteers in that area, of course, a part of the drivers, I think is important to catch. And really, I started in races, in the local races, working in my club. I was the president for 12 years, and I know what to be volunteer is. So really, I think is I want to catch this atmosphere also in the European level, because don't forget that this is the same that the real motorsport. The big events are running thanks to the volunteers. Volunteers that is in every corner. There's something happen with the cars, and this is something important to take care.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Javier, from all of us on the podcast, we really appreciate your time coming on, and I think without doubt the future is very bright with you behind the wheel, and we sincerely thank you for your time on coming on the show today.
For me, it has been a pleasure to be with all of you, with Mark, with you, Stuart, and also with the other Mark. Really, I want to say that I'm really motivated to move forward everything, and I'm glad when people like you talk to me. Okay, do you want to be a podcast? Sorry for my English, because that is not a perfect one.
Your English is fantastic. Our Spanish is also good.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's better than Spanish.
But anyway, really, I'm really motivated, and the last week for me is one of the most motivating week that I had since I was in EFRA, because I could see the feedback. Just because the last year we were working in the background. All without development plan stuff, but nothing visible. And this is the first visible step, and automatically a lot of positive feedback. And this is something very motivating for us, that we are volunteers and we want to move forward. And wow, it's amazing to be invited in this kind of podcast. And of course, you call me what you want if you for the next visible step, or if you want to do something different. Yeah, because I'm here for that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Javier. Take care of yourself.
Take care. Stay safe, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, what a fantastic guy.
He's lovely, isn't he? He's all right, is Javier.
Yeah, really, really top guy, and really great to have him on the show, wasn't it?
Yeah, it'd be great to meet him at a meeting.
Well, I've got a little bit of a confession that I've given him a couple of lashings of my tongue on the rostrum when he's been reffing, and I feel ghastly and terrible about it. When I see him next time, I must apologise.
Oh, is he the dark curly haired guy?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. He's a champion.
He is now.
Yeah, he's a champion fella, and when you talk to and I think it stands to point, doesn't it, that when you're caught up in the melee of what you're doing and you're trying your best, and yeah, we've all been refs, and it's not easy being refs, and especially when you've got 6, 7, 8 different nationalities on the rostrum, all with different driving styles from their own clubs across Europe. I mean, what chance has the fella got? And then you got me, because I'm no, shrinking violet. I maybe gave him a little bit.
I remember the first time Javier came and reffed a 12 scale European Championships, because his background is in 1/8 on-road track. He came and reffed the 12th Euros one year, and I kind of sat with him for a beer after the practice day, I think it was. Could have been at Huddy Arena in Slovakia. And I said to him, how's it going, Javier? Are you finding it all right seeing the numbers on the cars? And he kind of said, they're so fast, I can barely see the cars, let alone read the numbers on the side of them. I think he was genuinely shocked at how quick a 12 scale car was.
Yeah. I mean, there was some really insightful stuff there. I mean, there's a couple of points that I want to just bring up and I throw it over to you guys, because I'm really interested to hear your views on it. I mean, I've done, obviously some people may or may not know, we've got my YouTube channel with the Onroad podcast, etc., and I've got a reasonable amount of subscribers, not in your league, Mark, obviously, but we've got like close to 700 subscribers on the YouTube channel, and it gives me a demographic of who is subscribing, which I think is really insightful. And I've actually texted Alex Hagberg this evening because I wanted to get his numbers. He's got a couple of thousand on his website, and in both cases the biggest proportion is 35 to 44, with only collectively 9 to 12% between 18 and 24. So I think that in my mind is telling us that really to get the smaller or the younger folk, it doesn't feel like actually specifically going after them is the way to go. I feel like, in my eyes, it's to get more middle-aged, to let it drip into the younger kids via seeing it more on social media with streaming and video.
I think what we're beginning to see and have started to see in the last few years are people that raced RC as kids themselves that are now middle-aged, and they're bringing their own children into the hobby, which 30 years ago that wasn't the case, because RC was quite a new thing, whereas now you've almost got second generation racers coming in as children. And I think what you say is right, Stuart, because the reason that the demographic is your kind of 25 to 40 year olds is because they're the people with money, and they're the ones that are actually going to bankroll it. If you're going to get children involved in RC, you need to get their parents or the adults interested first, because they're the people with the wallets.
And I think that really comes on to a really nice the Tamiya Youth Scheme initiative, that quite a bit about, Mark, sure. and how that's materializing.
So I mean, there are two things I really want to talk about, and probably let's start with that. In that, I think it's really important that we re-emphasize the importance of clubs in the UK. I mean, it's lovely to have the guy from EFRA come and talk to us about, you know, the fact that we might go abroad to Slovakia or Italy and go race cars. But, you know, that's just, you know, the top of a pyramid, which needs a base underneath it. And for me, that base has to be clubs. And especially with touring cars, I'm going to suggest to you that it would be impossible to build a permanent track in the modern era. If you were having to rebuild Cotswolds or rebuild Aldershot or Adur, where is that money coming from? So those clubs are a priceless, precious commodity that if we don't put our efforts and commit our time to attending club meetings, then, you know, these outdoor tracks will die and we will never see them back again. And that's one of the things I wanted to say. Now, as part of that, you know, I think that's what's really inspired the organisers behind the King of Clubs series, which I really want to encourage people about. I did both the summer and series of that, and whatever we could do with the winter series. Obviously, we got COVID off from that, but I think that's really important to support. What I wanted to talk about was Tamiya Junior E. So there is an initiative supported by Tamiya. There's a great website which we'll put in the notes for the podcast, which is TamiyaJuniorE.com. TamiyaJuniorE.com. Now, I'm going to tell you that I was so inspired at King of Clubs because I looked up and there was a rostrum with 10 kids under the age of 12 racing in a heat in this series. And so what the Tamiya Junior E series have done is they've created a class based on Tamiya's low-cost TT02 car, 10th scale touring car, absolutely a minimum tuning. You're not allowed to do anything with it. You can't put any special parts on it. You get given a set of tyres, and those set of tyres have to last you for 3 race meetings. So let's not say that it's cheap, because if you start with nothing, you can go and buy a car, some radio gear, a set of batteries and some tyres. You could race for a year with your young person doing Tamiya Junior E. It's going to cost you £400 starting. And they've given you on the website, they give you a list of the kind of kit that you would need to buy to get involved in racing with your young person. It's not intimidating because after 12, you can't race in Tamiya Junior E anymore. It's for 12 and below. There's a sporty class that you can move into after that point. So it's really, really working. It's low cost. And if a lot of people have already got a bit of radio gear kicking around, they're going to be able to smack that in there and go racing with it. So first of all, look at the King of Clubs event, because you'll find that you'll be able to get yourself involved in Tamiya Junior E with your young person at that. But more than that, I know for a fact that Aldershot and Adur, the clubs, on club meetings, and at Aldershot we run every 2 weeks, we have a hire car, which is basically arrive and drive. And they're doing that at Adur as well. So you can book it, make sure you book it, because there's, you know, only a couple of these things. Arrive with a young person, somebody's going to help you get it on the track. The young person is going to be in heat with other people of like minds. It doesn't matter if you go run the thing off the end of the straight. That's what that series is there to get people progress through to a level of proficiency where they maybe feel happier to start mixing it with the next class up. One of the problems we have in our hobby, I feel, is a lot of us are very good at this and it can be quite intimidating how you get started. So this is a great way of getting started for the under 12s. That's what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear, Stiles, your point on that. But and I think the thing that we have as a real obstacle is we have all of these sort of inverted commas sort of starter classes, or a great, you know, like GT12 or whatever it might be. Ultimately, for juniors, they don't care what it looks like. All they want to do is stand and look at a car and go around the track. It's up to the adults to say, this is what you do. And I think with something like this Tamiya, the Junior E, you're dictating this is your roadmap from being 3 years old, 8 years old, up to 12. This is what you run, and it's going to cost you initially an outlay of £400. But of course, as we know, you don't just throw it in the bin after you've used it for a year. You'll be able to run that for next year. So actually, you spread it over 2 years, 3 years. It just keeps on getting cheaper, doesn't it? And I think that's as the adults dictating what the juniors are running. I think that's really important, rather than people that have got a penchant for the 1 minute GT12, next minute LMP, next minute X, next minute Y. We just need to have a uniform class, in my opinion anyway, that runs across the country, that this is what you do up to the age of 12 to get going. And I think that's a really nice, clean way of promoting a starter for youngsters.
Fully agree. I don't think you can call anything a starter or entry-level class if it's accessible for people that are adults or with 10 or more years experience of racing RC, because that's where it tails off. And that, to be frank, and it pains me to say it, I think that's what happened with GT12. It was started with the very best of intentions, but the problem was it very quickly evolved and was allowed to evolve beyond what it was originally intended as, and now it's just another class that is raced by elite drivers, really. So I think anything like this Tamiya Junior E, it's a very clearly defined and restrictive set of rules and formats, but it needs to stay like that. And you use the word dictate, Stuart, which a lot of people think that's a bad word, dictatorial or dictate, but actually in this kind of example, I think that's what's needed. It just needs to be dictated from whoever's organising it, and not allow people that are actually competing in it to come in and change things.
Anytime you're new to a hobby, we've all done it. We've all gone and bought. I remember Geraint Williams, we all know him. I said, this is what you need to go and buy. He didn't know. I told him that's what you need to go and buy. The fact that he sold it 2 weeks later and bought something else because he wanted to go and spend more money, neither here nor there. But there was a very clear, defined GT12 package that he could buy that gave him all of it to start. And I think when you talk about, and it dictates probably the wrong word, but point them towards maybe to say this is to get started in RC. This is the route. This is the plan. This is the journey. And from a young age, you feel like you've got a direction. And if you've got the website, and what's the website's name?
Tamiya Junior E, all one word. TamiyaJuniorE.com, and we'll put it in the notes, won't we, for the podcast?
Absolutely.
In there's a complete guide to starting racing, which gives you a list of everything
Great
that you
document.
need. And as I said, realistic costs of £400 to completely set up the car and run it for a year, starting from absolutely nothing. I'm pretty sure a console. A games console that you buy, plug into your TV is probably more money than that, isn't it?
Well, I bought I bought a second-hand Xbox for £200, and by the time I've paid the online fee and the game, I've spent £300. So I'm £100 short, and it's second-hand. Whereas you're talking about pretty much a brand new setup that's going to last you for years on end. When we know Xboxes come out new every 5 minutes and new games, don't they?
Yeah.
I think the key to it will be it needs to be able to last for years on end. So something that you buy and race this year still needs to be the same thing that you buy and race next year and the year after, so that you can keep the same kit year on year, and you're not going to be at a disadvantage if you haven't got the latest and greatest kit or piece of equipment. If it remains stable for a long period of time, then participation will just grow and grow, because it will be well defined and people will know exactly what they need to go and get, and they don't need to go and spend more money to remain competitive.
I know. I know this class has got really dirt cheap parts as well, so it's not going to cost a lot to repair the cars. I know that Aldershot, for example, I think they're charging 12 quid to hire the car for a day. And
Amazing.
if you pay the 24 quid, then you're absolved of the repair bits that you might need to replace because you broke the car. So you take a chance at 12 quid, or you can pay your 24 quid and absolve yourself of it. So it's a cheap day out. And, you know, what's really nice, I really like at the clubs as well, because a lot of our tracks are in quite nice areas, really. You know, there's a bit of park and there's a bit of place to run around and have a bit of a laugh. And the kids are getting on really well together. And I really like to see it. It's a joyous thing.
Yeah, I think just going back to what you were saying about club level racing, Mark, I think even in the relatively short, compared to you, time that I've been racing, I could go back to probably mid-2000s, so about 15 years ago. I could go to a West London club meeting on a random Sunday, middle of the summer, 150 drivers, no trouble, 15 heats, there'd be 3 classes. It was absolutely rammed with people. If I go to a West London club meeting now, 3 classes still, but you'd be lucky if there's 30 drivers.
Well, Mark, let me tell you that on the 4th, when we return on Easter Sunday at Aldershot, we've got 70 drivers booked in for that club day. Yeah,
brilliant. I'd love to see it kind of grow and prosper again, because as has been mentioned, that's the bottom row of the pyramid. And without numbers and volume at that level, then you can't possibly expect it to grow in the higher ranks.
I think what happens is that, and again, forgive me if I'm on a rant here, but I think what happens is that the touring car drivers, we've got the clubmans, we've got the 2-day nationals. Once you bolt those together over the summer, you can pretty much fill your calendar with going to those kind of regional or national meetings. And people do that, and you can almost think about not even joining a club. But what we have to remember is, financially, clubs cannot exist without membership. It's with the reduced numbers of drivers we've been having at Sunday meetings, and I'm hoping that that's going to improve. A club can't move forward unless it has a membership. What happens is we get down into a spiraling downward going position, and very soon the same old people will be looking at the same old people at a clubman's or a nationals, and it's going to die, and we will lose these tracks. So I made it a New Year's resolution that I would commit to my local club, and I would encourage everybody to do the same and almost prioritize what the club's doing over a national or a regional program.
Yeah, and I think that this year and the circumstances we find ourselves in with pandemics and everything else, I think there is a real opportunity to try and scale things back a little bit from focusing solely on big national level competitions, and try and encourage people to just go and race at their local club regularly.
But I think the club racing it is so hard to make people aware that it's going on, and I think that what I mean by that is, but people that are not involved in that club, and I think I've talked about it on my YouTube channel about the streaming side of things, and obviously you know a lot about that too, Mark, and being able to get your club meetings up online, up on Facebook, whilst it seems silly and some people are not comfortable with doing it, I just think that if we're a bit more visual with getting some simple bit of software that's free and downloadable to get some sort of imagery going on that is able to be shared amongst friends and family, that has the opportunity to suddenly have a father say, oh crikey, I'd like to have a go at that, and I reckon my son would like to as well. I think we miss out on this massive opportunity that social media now gives us, that is to a penny and so easy to do, that is going to reach way more people than we can ever imagine when it comes to going to a club meet and hopefully picking up one person, you know, that might drop by. I just think that social media and what we've got at our disposal for free is so powerful and not being used to anywhere near the level that it has the capability of.
Yeah, I think you know, it's, if people can be more active on social media. So I see a lot now, people have, and I can understand why they do it. Some people have separate Facebook profiles for their RC activities. So you have the name of a driver with RC at the end of it, and they do all of their posts and promotion and that through that. But the problem with that is that their reach is only within the RC world and industry. Whereas if they were posting stuff on their personal page, then it gets to all of their friends and family, some of which may never have seen what an RC car race is or even realise what it was all about. So yeah, I agree, Stu. I think if everyone just took a bit more of an initiative in posting up a picture or a video showing what they're doing on a Sunday afternoon, you never know how far that could reach.
Exactly right. Right. Listen, I'm sort of keen to move on to other things. I mean, it's been it seems like we have been going a little while, but you guys are still okay to keep going and chat some more.
Yeah.
Good. Keep going.
Do people listen to this stuff this long?
I would have switched off 5 minutes ago. But listen, it's been such a long time that we've been on it, and that's such a big topic. You know, trying to spread the love of our hobby, and you know, it's so frustrating, isn't it? Because we love it so much, and it engages us so much, and we want that for other people. And obviously, just trying to get them to get involved in it is not the easiest thing. But let's move on. I mean, there's been sort of lots of things going on in the background. I mean, let's go back to 12 scale, if we may. I know we've touched on the Junior E and the touring car and that kind of stuff. You know, there's been chassis aplenty, isn't there? I mean, we've got the A12, got the E4, we've got the X-Ray come out, we've got new got the new Roach that's coming out. We got a great exclusive with Ollie Payne on one of the chats that I did a little while ago. What are your thoughts? Let's go to you, Mark Stiles, on the new breed of 12 scale cars.
Yeah, well, I think there's a reasonable amount of variety, actually, isn't there? So I think we start with the automatics, their new A12. I think that's a great example of something that's completely new in concept. You know, it's unlike anything we've ever seen before, really. Which, you know, fresh ideas and fresh thinking. It's great to see, because I think possibly in recent years, 12 scale as a class has been a victim of kind of copy culture, and all of the cars started to converge towards looking very similar. With a classic layout, classic suspension designs. So it's great to see that new automatics car, and it'll be interesting to see how it fares when it gets put in the hands of all of the races around, and see how it goes. I think it's very clean and simple looking, which I quite like, the kind of minimalist approach. But I think perhaps some people might be a little bit perplexed by it, because it's not what they're familiar with in terms of how you might need to set it up and prepare it. So it'd be interesting to see how people handle that.
You've got one, haven't you, Mark Payne?
Yeah, it's the best car I've never run.
How much are they paying you to say that?
So yeah, I mean, I can't even remember building it. It's been so long ago. I did build it. I've got one. It's on the shelf. I mean,
is it built?
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice thing to build. I mean, I run automatics touring cars after the demise of Team Associated, and deciding they don't want to be bothered with Onroad anymore. Obviously, I got rid of my 12 scale cars, which, to be honest with you, by the time that came around, I was glad to see the back of them. I mean, it was pretty good to begin with, but I mean, we had, I can't remember, was it 3 years, Mark, we had those cars for without any development whatsoever?
Yeah, it was a constant struggle trying to keep up with developments that were going on around us with a car that basically stood still for 3 years.
Didn't cheese come to mind?
Well, yeah, Steve Payne once referred to me at the Euros as the cheese and wine club because I bent about 3 chassis plates on my car. And then went and drowned my sorrows with beer and wine in the evening.
Yeah, let me tell you, I'm not sure the touring car was that much better. I thought Chris Granger was going to commit suicide a couple of times and saw him at a couple of meetings.
The touring car was great. I won a clubman's meeting with that car about 18 months ago.
Were you third, Mark?
No, I won. I qualified third.
Excellent. Anyway,
I won the A final without winning because I got 2 second places in the finals. I think
that's
fantastic. That's enough to win overall. Yeah.
No, so yeah, I was running the automatics touring car before Associated, and I went back. Obviously, I went back to it, and it had moved on a bit since then. So the A12 is different. I mean, I've made it flat. I think once you've run 12 scale cars, I think you end up, if you've been around them for long enough, you end up with a sixth sense for making things straight, don't you? Well, I mean, I think the world is separated into the people that can do that and the people that clearly can't. I mean, I think with 12 scale cars, you've got to do 10 things right. The trick is knowing which 10 things and making sure you always do those 10 things right consistently.
But
well, I think on the A12, it's going to be a different set of 10 things, and I haven't worked out what they are yet.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing with 12 scale, and I think it's unbelievable how it really grew in popularity. I mean, whether it was the build up to the Worlds or before the pandemic, it was really strong. And when you think about the complexities of these cars, and not so much now, but back in the 2 or 3 years ago, as short while ago, to get them straight, it takes a decent amount of effort, doesn't it? But it's only about sort of ticking boxes. It is impressive that so many people do it, and they do keep turning up, and they do keep driving a bent car, and yet they still bloody love it.
Yeah, I find that hard to understand how some of these stuff, how it's even drivable. I mean, one of the things that I really enjoy at the club, if I go down to Newbury or whatever, is watching a few go round, picking one and spending 20 minutes with it and pointing out the 10 things they haven't done right, giving it back to them, and then watching an individual go 2 laps faster.
Yeah, that is a very kind of, I've done that a few times in the past, and it's quite rewarding to see. And I like seeing smiles on faces. So yeah. when you see someone who's clearly struggling, and you just go and offer a helping hand and offer to take a look over their car, sort a few things out with it. Maybe if it's the same car that you're running, if you put any spare bits on it or whatever, a pair of springs, you'll just say, "Oh, don't worry about it. You can have them." And it's great to see when they go up and, like you say, Mark, they put 2 or 3 laps on their best run and see the faces light up, and that's what keeps them coming back. Because if in many cases, if you don't offer that helping hand, people get more and more despondent with it, and in the end they end up just walking away because they don't feel like they're getting on with it or making any progress.
And I really think that when we go back to nationals, notably, club scene's a bit different because everyone, your local club, you're a bit closer, but a national scene, I'd really like to see more drivers working with other drivers, not Schumacher camp, not the Zen camp, not the X-ray camp, not the whatever, the automatic. Do you know what I mean? It'd be so nice if we could break that cycle and make it more inclusive to people that do turn up with a random chassis or with something, that they don't feel a little bit pigeonholed that I can only go and talk to those people over there. I feel like that our hobby needs that. We need to branch out a little bit and make it a bit more inclusive. What do you think about that?
Who are you asking, Stu?
Well, let me go. I'll start with you first, Mark Payne.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I think historically, the 12 scale section is very open. I know it can appear, sometimes it can appear that it's not, but I think people are really willing to help. I'd first of all, who's that man in the mirror? Look at myself, so I'm really happy to look at anybody's car. I'm not as quick as I used to be, but I can normally spot when something isn't straight or isn't going to work well. And feel free to come and ask me anytime. I sometimes wonder whether we're too open. Let me give you I know this isn't what you want to hear, Stuart, but I remember when I first started touring cars down at Slough, Chris Kurzweil was still a kid. I couldn't get anywhere near him. He was just too damn good. And then I started doing 12 scale, and then Chris came to do some 12th. And I really enjoyed the fact that he couldn't get near me.
Yeah, I remember it.
And then I made a mistake of looking at his car and going, Chris, what are you doing here? And, his front end was all jammed up and there was no way it was going to work. And we fixed all of that. And then that was the last time that I ever beat him. And so sometimes you wonder whether you should keep these things to yourself. But anyway, I think. Is there a partisan spirit with the teams? Yeah, I'm interested, Stu, on let me ask you both. Let me fire it back to you, Stu, and you, Mark. Do you think that with the Schumacher versus Associated versus Roche versus Zen versus whatever, do you think it's partisan?
Well, I think that the atmosphere in the room has become more toxic going into the Worlds. I felt it wasn't a nice place to be for me.
Are you talking about the Worlds itself?
No. At a national level, it felt a toxic atmosphere in the nationals for me. Again, this is only my perspective, of course. It wouldn't have been an experience maybe for everyone, but it just felt like that it wasn't a warm place. That's the way it felt to me.
Yeah, it does seem very much us and them almost, doesn't it? Which is, I think competition is healthy and good, but there should be camaraderie as well.
Absolutely.
We're all in it together at the end of the day, and it's nobody.
And I'm gonna put it out there because I think there's a toxic relationship between Ollie Payne and Andy Murray. I think ultimately there is you've got two, and Dave Spashit as well. There are three top of the tree drivers that are rivaling each other, and I think sometimes that overboiled. And that, so for me, that's where it stems from. That it felt like that it then descended down through, Andy Murray's camp, Zen and Roche's camp, and all of the outsiders. It was felt. That's what it felt like to me. And I think there was incidents in mod finals and stock finals where people were clipped and people didn't stop, and then retaliation and all that kind of stuff. And it just felt like it was boiling over in a lead up to the Worlds. And then when the results of the Worlds carried on and it was what it was, it felt like the toxic environment was still had the opportunity to be there. And I suppose that's where it's coming from for me. Listen, I've named and shamed but it's only from a love of the hobby for it to be a really great place for everyone to be in, because I think it's a great way to spend a Saturday and Sunday with your mates having a good laugh. And when it feels a bit toxic, it's like, oh no, it shouldn't be that way, because it's not what it's about. As you say, it's about camaraderie, fierce competition, and then we all have a beer afterwards. Who cares what car you're driving? Have a beer, have a laugh. Don't care whether you're wearing a Schumacher top, a Roche top, a Zen top, an X-ray top. Don't give a monkeys. Let's go have a beer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the names you mentioned, I think it'd be fair to put my name into one of those groups or camps as well. You know, it's an uncomfortable truth that there's certain people I struggle to see eye to eye with, and I think a lot of it is just personality clashes with, you know, a lot of us are very different people in terms of our social and you know, our personalities, which, you know, when that kind of spills over into the competitive stage, it's unfortunate, but there's an element of it that is potentially unavoidable, I guess, because at the end of the day, you know, the key players in it all are trying to do business against each other, and they're competing for livelihoods. It's not just a weekend hobby for some of these people. But yeah, I do agree that there have been moments and times where the atmosphere has got a bit toxic, which really it's only the fault of the people involved, and there's blame on all sides in that regard. I think
I think I missed out on that, guys, because I couldn't do the nationals leading up to the worlds, which is kind of why I didn't do the worlds as well. But I was, you know, busy with some of the production stuff that I was having to do at the time, so I kind of missed out on that kind of lead up. So what you're talking about is not wholly something that I can see elements of it, but it's not really something that I felt I went through. So as you say, it must have been in recent times in the lead up to that. So yeah, we just need to watch that doesn't happen when we're back in a room together.
Yeah, and listen, you know, we all love competition, and you know, I know I'm no shrinking violet, and I can put, you know, noses out of joint, as we all can, but ultimately we share the same passion, and it is people's livelihoods, you know, but the drivers involved, you know, can you imagine if, and I always bring him in, I hold him in such high regard, Alex Hagberg. I've watched Alex Hagberg at Sid Cup. I don't know whether you were there, Mark Stiles, but
Alex never been to Sid Cup, so no.
Okay, so Mark Stiles, sorry, you're Mark Stiles. Alex Hagberg was parked on the line at Sid Cup. He's going to hate me for bringing this up. Luke Burley comes around and drives his mod car or his stock car up the rear end of Alex Hagberg on the start line of the final, and it was I think it might have been a regional, I don't know, but it was a decent event.
Let me guess what happened.
And he broke his rear wheel. And
can I guess what Alex did?
He just.
I bet he walked down, picked up his car, went back to the pits, and didn't say a word.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was like nothing had even happened.
That's now, Alex, though, isn't it? He's a consummate professional.
Absolutely, and it's people, and to me, whether you went up to Alex with a Schumacher, a Roche, an Automatics, he would go out of his way because he is representing X-Ray. Because he knows that if Martin Hoody was sitting in the corner, he would want Alex to be like that. Because the big picture is that Alex is trying to grow the hobby, and he does it every day with his YouTube channel. And I just think that if we all went about it in that way, I think that the hobby would grow exponentially quicker, and people would probably be wealthier for it. I just think that love those around you. You know, it's going to be a much better place to be in.
Stu, is Alex Hagberg the son you wish you always had had?
I really do. I maybe a man crush, but he's such a I was so nervous around him first time I ever met him, because I thought, like, oh my goodness. But of course, it's like, when he comes over and chats to you, because I first met him in New York, and he's just brilliant. He's just brilliant. He's just a great guy, and you don't expect that when someone is doing it for their job. I mean, he is really, him and Mark Reinhard, they're the only two guys really that are on road that are doing it for their job, aren't they? Are there many other people?
In 12 scale, you mean?
well, touring car and 12 scale that are actually
touring
doing
car. You've got your Ronald Volkers, and there's a handful of others, aren't there?
Yeah.
Bruno, what's his face?
Yeah, Bruno Coelho.
But he still does buggy though. I mean, literally, Alex is literally touring car and literally 12 scale. Not even that 12 scale really. It's mainly touring car, isn't it? I mean, he's literally doing it for his job. And really, even Andy Murray, Ollie Payne, they're drivers, but are they doing the same job as Alex? I don't know.
Well, Ollie Payne's not. He's not earning a living from it, so to speak, is he? In the same way that Alex is.
No.
And I guess Andy is in the position he's in by association because his job is working for Schumacher, working for one of the manufacturers. So, I guess Andy is a professional, but he's an engineer for Schumacher before he's a professional driver.
Exactly. Exactly. So, listen, I wanted to air that because I wanted to put it out there because I'm sure that's going to ruffle the feathers of a few people by me saying that stuff.
Yeah. I think it's sad, Stuart. I just think, I'm not explaining myself. I think to have a job in RC is a sad career. Go
on, elaborate. Love that. Elaborate.
Because you take something that should be a hobby and it becomes your meat and two veg on the table. And I know what that looks like because I did it. But it's not even a very good career, is it? Come on.
What?
I mean,
I feel like I've been outspoken enough tonight already. But listen, I'm with you.
Don't aspire to that. I mean, I worry about. I hope that's not the direction that Ollie Payne goes in, because I just think that, I think it's a nice thing to do as a hobby. And okay, if you're doing it for a living, I think it gets complicated because you're mixing business with pleasure, and that's a trap, and it generally doesn't have a good outcome.
Yeah. It's bad enough doing it in the way that I do, turning an interest into your career. I've always had an interest and a passion for Formula One, but if I'm sat in the pits at a model car race meeting on a Sunday afternoon, the last thing I really want to talk about in the world is Formula One.
Yeah.
Because I've got to go and do it Monday to Friday.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So whilst my interest and my passion in Formula One generally is unwavered by the fact that I work in the industry, actually it does take the edge off it ever so slightly when it becomes a bit more than an interest or a hobby. And I can imagine that's amplified tenfold if it's in an RC setting where, at a weekend you go and race at a national championship RC event, and your weekend is an extension of your day job. It must be difficult to do, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Agreed. All right. Well, let's move on. We'll just touch on the other body shells that have come out just recently. Have you seen the Bitty design shell?
Is that this Robox thing with a curved or a rounded front on it?
Come on, Mark. Give us a bit more than that. This Robox thing with a curved line.
I'm looking at some pictures of it now. The back end of it, to me, looks very much like a Protoform BMR12, which is a body shell that Protoform did 4 or 5 years ago. And my resounding memory of that body was that it didn't have enough steering. Obviously, this Bitty design idea could be different because the front end is very different to anything I've seen in recent years on a 12 scale car. Looks like it's got quite a big splitter around the bottom of underneath the headlights. So yeah, it could work, but yeah, to me it looks like it might not steer enough, but I could be wildly wrong in that guesstimation. So.
Have you seen that, Mr. Payne?
No, I'm still waiting to implement the advice you gave me a little while ago on the fact that I should be running a Montex M20.
Yeah, well, that's now been superseded by the M20.
Yeah, I even watched your YouTube thing on cutting it out, which was dull as dishwater. So yeah, but I definitely need to get one of those. And
Thanks for the plug, Mark.
And the thing,
Mr. Payne, do you like steering or a pointy front end?
You know me, and I like steering.
Yeah, you'll like the M20. I tried an M20 in practice at the Euros after my go-to protoform body. I put an M20 on my car for one run, and holy crap, it steered.
Well, but you're doing that thing that Stu talks about, where you mount it so high at the back, you don't even cut any cut line on the bottom of it.
Well, I basically took the one that Ollie Payne had on his bench and put that on my car and drove it. So.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean the rear has to run at sort of 98 millimeters. It's really quite high on the rear. Now, it'd be amiss of because they're fantastic sponsors of the Onroad podcast race series, Fat Bodies. Have you seen their new shell?
I did see that. Did you review that as well?
I've reviewed that as well, Mark. I cut that out and I gave it I gave it the Hollywood mounting and paint and all that.
Mounting.
It looks quite slippery to me. That one.
Oh, it's slippery, Mark. You get some Vaseline on that, baby.
Yeah, it's got a lovely rounded front to it.
Isn't it just?
Yeah. So what should I be? Okay, Stuart, you're up on bodies and Hollywood mounting. What should I be mounting? That's what I want.
Well, I think the first thing you should mount is an M21.
Right.
Followed by a Fat Bodies, followed by a Bitty design.
Okay.
The reason that the Fat Bodies lightweight sprayed is 29 grams.
Well, that's just going to explode into shards of polycarbonate the first time it touches something, isn't it?
Excuse me. It's very robust. It is. As thin as it is very robust.
Okay. So this is the Bitty design one.
No, this is the Fat Bodies design.
The Fat Bodies one. Okay.
Let me give you an insight into the Bitty design one. The lightweight, they do an ultra lightweight and they do a lightweight one. The lightweight one sprayed is 48 grams. That's how big a difference it is.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that thing, you'll be able to drive around the car park and have Mark Jewett run over it and it'll still be okay.
Yeah, I need to get some bodies.
Yeah, and start mounting.
Yeah.
The M21, the Montec, or MT21 it's called, isn't it? That looks like a kind of an evolution of the MT20, is that right?
That's it.
It looks similar in profile and shape, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it's got a touch more of a splitter on the front. It's got the rake angle on the front is about 5 degrees stronger, I believe.
Even more front end then.
Even more front end. And the word on the street by Mr. Murray is that you won't need to mount it quite as high. It'd be about 3 or 4 millimeters lower because it's got a bit more front end.
Who makes these Montex bodies? Is it a Schumacher thing?
No, Schumacher distro, but Montec is the
cool.
The builders of it. Yeah.
Got to get some.
Yeah, and of course.
What are we saying about the future of body shells then? Because there's rumours that they might be looking to revamp the rules and the body spec.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, honestly, I think we need to branch out and start making the cars engaging to look at and engaging to get a different shell right and try it and.
Yeah.
Well, what needs to change? I'm really tough with this. I just don't care about body shells. I mean,
well, that's pretty clear.
I don't even like.
Looking at your
I don't like mounting them. I don't like spraying them. I don't like cutting them out.
I tell you who doesn't like mounting them, and that is Andy Thompson. He does. Honestly, he buys 5 body shells and only mounts one of them because the other 4 he's cut wrong and thrown in the bin.
Oh. I had Basil.
Why do you think? Why do you think Andy Edwards and Matt Rice and half the other guys that pit with me at nationals? Why do you think they pit near me?
Yeah, they give you the bodies to mount.
Yeah, I turn up to a national, and the first thing I get on my pit table on a Saturday morning is a stack of body shells to mount. Yeah.
Is Matt Rice coming back to racing?
I would think so. Yeah, we've been saying lately we're all missing each other. We miss our buddies, and that's the main reason we do it, really. So
and that's sweet.
That's
sweet. I'll never forget the Euros and Matt Rice and his fantastic efforts in qualifying, and then he celebrated that night. But I'm not going to go into it any further, just in case his wife's listening.
His wife knows all about it.
Oh, okay, that's good. Now F1, there's been some movement there. Now I'm not sure how much you guys are up on F1. Mardave have brought out their new car, and so too has Schumacher brought out their first F1 as well. Are you aware of these two cars?
I wasn't really until I went on the internet this afternoon and did a bit of reading up on them. To be honest, I don't know. I've never really been that enthused by radio-controlled F1 cars. They look like fish out of water to me when they go around the track.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
They look too long. They're too cumbersome. They don't have enough grip, and there's not really anything about them that makes me want to go and get one and have a go. Mm. Usually with most RC classes, there's something about it, a wow factor that makes you think, oh yeah, I'll have a go at that. But F1's never really ticked any boxes for me, I have to be honest.
What about you, Mark?
I just think that we've got so many wonderful RC devices that actually work. Why would you want to run something that clearly doesn't?
Okay, well, if you're tuning into the On-Road podcast for the very first time, Mark is saying things.
No.
Just to go on. Sorry, Mark.
No, I just don't like the way they look. I'm going to have to temper this with the fact that the first time I saw the original GT12s going around, they just look like boats, and but obviously they got better and better. The more they made them look like an LMP car, the better they got. Until, what a big surprise, it's an LMP car. So I don't get F1. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I put F1 in the same category as eco trucks. I never got that either. Or RC caravan racing.
Now I'm sorry. I'm stopping you there. There is absolutely nothing wrong with RC caravanning at a Christmas club meet. I'm sorry. Everybody must experience.
Has anyone ever done RC banger racing? Like Mardave, short track oval.
Aren't you the world champion at that, Mark?
I was once upon a time, yeah. Bloody hot rods. And I was also, in inverted commas, world champion out of lots of English people at figure of 8 bangers as well.
We're still talking about RC cars here, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Now, I was educated in this at the Worlds when we went out for dinner with Chris Wilkinson, Mr. Mardave.
Yeah, Wilco knows all about it.
Oh my goodness, banger racing! They buy big aluminium body shells, smash them to bits, and then go and buy them.
Yeah. In fact, Chris Wilkinson. So I used to race oval hot rods, which is like non-contact short track oval racing with what back then was Mardave V12s. So I won the so-called World Championships in 2004, and it was Wilco that won it in 2006. So Wilco took the title off me in that race.
Well, he's a lovely man. I always knew he was a nice fellow.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're a different breed, RC banger racers. They spend all this time meticulously preparing a body shell, and they're not happy unless they go home at the end of the race meeting with their car in several pieces in a plastic carrier bag.
Yeah.
It's just It's beyond me, but they seem to enjoy it. So
Can I just come in and talk about something else I don't get? You know, touring cars.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, that we all know touring cars. Why would you want to snap the rear belt and then run that as a class?
Oh God, that is genius. You're talking about the world famous fronty class, aren't
I
you?
don't get it.
Well, it's just if you've ever been to West Kent on a Sunday morning and you've watched a load of front wheel drive minis go around, and then add some more power to it, why would you do it?
something else for someone to win, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't.
I think there's too much of that. Granularity in a class is what we need. Lots of people running the same thing.
100%. We had Donnie Lear on the show. I don't know if you listened to that podcast. We had Donnie Lear on the show from the US. He was a NASCAR driver, and he runs 360 V2, the NYGP out in New York, and he's got this big beef with in the US. If they can invent a class, they will. I mean, look at snowbirds. How many classes they've got? They've got about 8 people running in one class, and they've got 50 classes. It's like, what are you doing? Why you just?
They've got the whole obese section, haven't they, as well?
Oh,
I think I'll qualify for that right there.
Oh dear! Listen, I think we're drawing to a close of what could be quite a nice partnership on the Onroad podcast. I think we've been quite opinionated already. I think we've thrown it out there.
Is this okay to be this opinionated?
Absolutely. It will bring in the crowds, and listen, we'll have a whole section of the national room to ourselves.
That compliment you were wanting.
Just going back a few steps to the F1 discussion, I think it either needs to have performance or realistic looks and styling about it, and at the moment it's got neither. So it needs to go in one of those two directions, because otherwise there's nothing to get excited about, is there?
Yeah, the Onroad podcast, the race series, on the Saturday, we're doing just a final. We're having a lunch break or dinner break, and we're having just a 5-minute final with 10 cars, but they've all got to be in liveries, proper F1 liveries, or else you can't run. No pro painted shells, like a full livery, which I think will look really cool, on the stream. And I think that's kind of what you're looking for, isn't it? Something that a bit of close racing, you can get a bit of fun, and it looks quite good.
Yeah. They just need the rear wings and the body shells to look more representative of what a modern Formula One car looks like.
Yeah, that's true.
As well.
Yeah, that's true.
They look like a 1970s Hesketh or something, don't they? Around.
Listen, there's still spaces available in the On-Road race series. If you go to the On-Road LMP raceseries.org, it's all the info is on there. Why are you two not racing?
For me, it doesn't fall. I've got some gig dates that either fall on that or I'm on my boat.
Okay, I'll give you that one if you're on your boat. Mark Stiles, other than having a child that's going to be taking up every moment of every minute of every day, what could you possibly have an excuse for?
Well, I have to be honest. I haven't driven or raced an RC car for over a year now. So the last time I raced was at the 12 Skill Euros last year.
Got to go to a track there, haven't you?
Yeah, and to be honest, I have found lately that my kind of enthusiasm and want to go back racing has been decidedly lacking, but this conversation has got me a little bit more invigorated, so maybe I'll have a look at some race meetings, see what I can do. But my other excuse is that I might be out riding my bike. That's my latest interest. So.
Well, listen, I'll take your kit up for you, and you can ride your bike up to Leeds if that helps, and I'll take your kit home.
That might be 1 or 2 pedal strokes too far.
Listen, chaps. It's been really, really great having you on the show, and hopefully we can get you back on and doing the next one as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, then. No worries. Good to speak to you.
Yeah, look after yourself, chaps, and we'll see you all again soon.
All right, bye.
Take care. See you later.
So that's the end of the show. It's been great having you all on, and we look forward to seeing you all next time. If you like the podcast, click the like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you all again trackside soon.